The emergency alarm echoed through the halls of Nexus Prime, the galaxy's most important space station. Scientists from across the known worlds rushed to the main meeting room. Something big was happening, and it involved the new species that had just appeared in their corner of space. Dr. Zixith floated into the room, his crystal body glowing with worry. As the smartest being in the Zephyrian Empire, he had never felt so confused. Behind him came the representatives of other great civilizations. The Kythera arrived as a swirling cloud of connected minds, all thinking as one. The Luminari entered as pure energy, their thoughts moving at the speed of light. These were the three most advanced species in the galaxy. For thousands of years, they had been the teachers and guides for younger civilizations. When a new species reached the stars, they would study their technology, help them improve, and welcome them into the galactic community. It was how things had always worked, but now they faced something they had never seen before. Fellow scientists, Dr. Zixith began, his voice ringing like crystal bells. We are here because of the humans. The word humans sent a ripple of confusion through the room. 3 months ago, nobody had even heard of them. They came from a small yellow star on the edge of the galaxy, in a region most civilizations ignored. Their planet was covered in water and had violent weather, not the kind of place that usually produced great spacefaring civilizations. Show them the recordings, said the Kythera collective, their many voices speaking as one. Dr. Zixith activated the holographic display in the center of the room. A battle scene appeared, floating in the air like a ghost. Sleek alien ships with curved hulls and energy weapons were fighting against crude, boxy vessels that looked like they were built in someone's garage. This is the Sarkonian raid on the Kepler trade route, Dr. Zixith explained. The Sarkonians are a warrior race. Their ships are fast, their weapons are powerful, and their tactics are proven. They have conquered 12 star systems. The beings in the room watched as the battle played out. The Sarkonian ships moved like dancers, using advanced maneuvers that required computers faster than most planets could build. Their energy weapons could slice through the strongest known metals, but somehow the ugly human ships were winning. This should not be possible, Dr. Zixith continued. Our scans show that human technology is primitive. Their ships use chemical rockets for thrust. Their weapons fire solid metal projectiles. Their computers are barely smart enough to calculate a jump to hyperspace. On the display, a human ship that should have been destroyed was still fighting. Its hull was damaged, fires were burning inside it, and one of its weapon systems was completely gone. But it kept moving, kept fighting, and kept hitting its targets with impossible accuracy. We have run the simulation 10,000 times, said the Luminari representative, their energy form pulsing with confusion. Every scenario shows the humans losing. Their weapons are too slow, their ships are too heavy, and their technology is too simple. Yet they won, added the Kythera. Not just barely. They won decisively. The Sarkonians retreated and have not returned to that sector. Dr. Zixith changed the display to show current star maps. Red dots marked human territory, which had grown larger in just 3 months. Green lines showed the trade routes that human ships now protected. They are expanding rapidly, he said. Other species are requesting human protection for their merchant vessels. The humans charge no fee and ask for nothing in return except basic supplies. This was another puzzle. Every advanced civilization demanded payment for protection services, usually in the form of technology, resources, or strategic advantages. The humans seemed content with food and spare parts. We must understand how they do this, Dr. Zixith declared. Their success breaks every rule of space warfare that we know. If we can learn their secrets, we can help other species defend themselves better. The Kythera collective murmured agreement among themselves. Our databases contain the technological development of every species in the galaxy. None have achieved such results with such primitive tools. It is a scientific impossibility, the Luminari added. Therefore, we must be missing something important. Dr. Zixith pulled up detailed scans of human warships taken from long range. The images showed vessels that looked like metal boxes with engines stuck on the back. Their hulls were thick and heavy, designed to absorb damage rather than avoid it. Their weapons were simple kinetic cannons that fired solid rounds instead of elegant energy beams. Look at this design, he said, pointing to one of the ships. The engine placement creates unnecessary stress on the hull. The weapon arrangement leaves blind spots that any competent enemy could exploit. The armor is distributed inefficiently. And yet, the Kythera observed, These ships destroyed vessels that were superior in every measurable way. The room fell silent as the greatest minds in the galaxy struggled with this problem. For the first time in their long lives, they had encountered something that their advanced science could not explain. "What do we know about human culture?" asked the luminary. Dr. Zixth activated another display. Images of Earth appeared showing cities, forests, and oceans. They are a young species only recently unified under a single planetary government. Their history is filled with conflict. They have fought wars using everything from stone clubs to nuclear weapons. "Ah," said the Kithera. "A warrior culture. That explains their aggressive expansion." "No," Dr. Zixith corrected. "That is what makes this even more strange. Their current government is peaceful. They avoid conflict when possible and prefer negotiation to warfare. Yet when forced to fight, they show capabilities that exceed all projections." He showed them recordings of human diplomatic meetings. The humans were polite, reasonable, and seemed genuinely interested in making friends with other species. They offered fair trade agreements and kept their promises. Nothing about their behavior suggested they were a threat to galactic peace. "Perhaps their ships contain hidden technology," suggested the luminary. "Weapons or systems that our scans cannot detect." "We have considered this," Dr. Zixith replied. "But our sensors can detect quantum fluctuations, dimensional anomalies, and energy signatures from other galaxies. If the humans had advanced technology, we would see evidence of it." The meeting continued for hours as the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy tried to solve the human puzzle. They considered every possibility: hidden weapons, secret alliances, unknown energy sources, even the possibility that the humans were not actually from this galaxy. Nothing fit the evidence. Finally, Dr. Zixth made a proposal that would change everything. "We must make direct contact," he announced. "We will approach the humans peacefully and request permission to examine one of their warships. Every species we have encountered has been honored by such a request. The humans will surely agree." The Kithera collective buzzed with excitement. "Yes, a detailed examination will reveal their secrets. We will offer them knowledge in exchange, as is traditional. I will personally lead the mission," Dr. Zixith declared. "We will take our finest research vessel and our most advanced scanning equipment. Whatever makes these humans so effective in battle, we will discover it." The luminary pulsed with agreement, and once we understand their methods, we can improve the defenses of all peaceful species in the galaxy. As the meeting ended, the alien scientists felt confident that they would soon solve this puzzle. After all, they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. How difficult could it be to understand the technology of a primitive species that had only just reached the stars? They had no idea that they were about to encounter something that would shake their understanding of the universe itself. The humans were about to teach them that sometimes, the most dangerous weapon in space was not advanced technology, but something much simpler and far more frightening. Something that could not be measured, copied, or understood by even the smartest minds in the galaxy. The human fleet hung in space like a pack of metal wolves, their hulls scarred from battles fought in distant star systems. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the alien ships approach on her display screen. After months of hearing stories about these mysterious advanced civilizations, she was finally going to meet them face to face. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Morrison from the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead alien vessel. They're requesting a diplomatic meeting." "Put it through," Chen ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the strangest collection of beings Chen had ever seen. In the center was a tall figure made of what looked like living crystal, its body glowing with soft blue light. Beside it was a swirling cloud of particles that somehow gave the impression of thousands of minds thinking together. And floating to one side was a creature of pure energy, constantly shifting between different colors. "Greetings, humans," the crystal being said in perfect English. "I am Dr. Zixith of the Zephyrian Empire. With me are representatives of the Kithara Collective and the Luminary Consciousness. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and understanding." Chen stepped forward. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Force. Welcome to human space. What can we do for you?" Dr. Zixith's crystal body brightened with what might have been excitement. "Admiral Chen, we have observed your species' remarkable success in space combat. Your achievements have impressed the entire galactic scientific community. We have come to offer you a great honor." "What kind of honor?" Chen asked, though something in the alien's tone made her cautious. We wish to study one of your warships, Dr. Zixith explained. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council of Sciences has examined and cataloged the technology of every spacefaring species. We help young civilizations improve their designs and share knowledge that benefits everyone. The swirling cloud of the Kithara pulsed as it spoke. In exchange for allowing us to examine your vessels, we offer you technologies that would advance your civilization by centuries. Faster engines, more powerful weapons, medical techniques that could eliminate disease. The energy being that was the luminary representative added. We could show you how to convert matter directly into energy, how to travel between dimensions, how to build computers that think faster than light itself. Chen felt her breath catch. The offers were incredible, beyond anything humanity had dreamed of. With such technology, humans could explore the entire galaxy, cure every illness and solve problems that had plagued their species for generations, but something held her back. That's a very generous offer, Chen said carefully, but I'm afraid we'll have to decline. The silence that followed was so complete that Chen could hear the hum of her ship's life support systems. The three alien representatives seemed frozen, as if her words had short-circuited their thought processes. I do not understand, Dr. Zixith finally said. Did our translation systems malfunction? You are refusing our offer? That's correct, Chen confirmed. We appreciate the generous terms, but we're not ready to share our ship designs at this time. The Kithara collective buzzed with confusion, thousands of minds trying to process this unprecedented response. But the advancement of knowledge is the highest goal of all intelligent life. Why would you choose ignorance over enlightenment? Chen chose her words carefully. We don't see it as choosing ignorance. We see it as earning our place in the galaxy through our own efforts. Our ships aren't just machines to us. They represent human ingenuity, our determination to survive, and our refusal to give up when things get difficult. Dr. Zixith's crystal form flickered as he tried to understand. But surely you realize that cooperation accelerates progress. Every species we have encountered has eagerly joined the galactic community and shared their innovations. Maybe that works for other species, Chen replied. But humans have always believed that the struggles we face make us stronger. If we take shortcuts now, we might miss learning something important about ourselves. The luminary pulsed with different colors, each one representing a different emotional state. Admiral Chen, you cannot comprehend what we are offering. Technologies that could eliminate poverty, hunger, disease. Ways to expand human consciousness beyond the limitations of biological form. Could you add human minds to our collective? The Kithara asked. We could share all knowledge instantly. Every human would have access to the combined wisdom of millions of beings. Chen shook her head. I'm sure that would be interesting. But part of being human is thinking for ourselves, making our own mistakes and learning from them. We're not ready to give that up. Dr. Zixith leaned forward, his crystal body brightening. Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding. We are not asking for your military secrets or weapons. We simply wish to understand how your ships function so efficiently, despite their apparent technological limitations. I understand what you're asking, Chen said, and I understand why you're asking it. But the answer is still no. The three aliens exchanged communications in languages that sounded like music, mathematics, and pure thought. Chen waited patiently, knowing that this conversation was probably the strangest any of them had ever experienced. Finally, Dr. Zixith spoke again. Admiral, may I ask what would convince you to reconsider? What could we offer that would change your mind? Chen thought for a moment. Honestly, nothing. This isn't about what you're offering. It's about who we are as a species. We've always believed that the things worth having are the things you work for yourself. But your technology is primitive, the Kithara protested. Your ships should not be able to defeat advanced civilizations like the Sarkonians. There must be something we are not seeing. Maybe the something you're not seeing is that advanced technology isn't everything, Chen suggested. Maybe there are other factors that matter just as much. The luminary's energy form stabilized into a deep blue color. What factors could possibly overcome technological superiority? Chen smiled. Well, that would be telling, wouldn't it? Another long silence followed. Dr. Zixith seemed to be struggling with concepts that his advanced mind couldn't process. The idea that a species would voluntarily choose to remain less advanced was beyond his understanding. Admiral, he said finally, would you at least allow us to observe your ships from a distance? Perhaps watch a training exercise or patrol mission. We promise not to use any invasive scanning techniques. Chen considered this. Letting the aliens watch wouldn't reveal any real secrets, and it might satisfy their curiosity enough to leave humanity alone. That might be acceptable, she said. We have a fleet exercise scheduled for next week. You could observe from a safe distance, say 50,000 kilometers. Dr. Zixith's crystal form brightened considerably. That would be most educational. We accept your terms. Good, Chen said. But I want to be clear about something. We're allowing you to watch because we believe in friendly relations between species. But if you try to scan our ships or gather intelligence beyond what you can see with your eyes, we'll consider it a hostile act. Understood. Dr. Zixith agreed quickly. We will maintain our distance and use only passive observation. As the alien ships moved away to prepare for the observation mission, Chen's first officer approached her. Admiral, are you sure about this? Those technologies they offered could solve every problem humanity faces. Chen nodded. I'm sure, Commander. Those aliens are smart, maybe the smartest beings in the galaxy, but they don't understand something important about humans. What's that? Chen looked out at the stars, thinking about the long journey that had brought humanity to this point. The wars, the struggles, the countless times humans had faced impossible odds and somehow found a way to win. They don't understand that our strength doesn't come from our technology, she said. It comes from something else entirely, something that can't be measured or copied or improved by alien science. What? Chen smiled. The simple fact that we refuse to quit, no matter how bad things get. That's not something you can learn from studying our ships. It's something you have to earn through blood, sweat, and tears. As the human fleet prepared for the upcoming exercise, none of them realized they were about to give the aliens a demonstration that would haunt the galactic scientific community for generations to come. The smartest beings in the galaxy were about to learn that some mysteries were better left unsolved. Dr. Zixith floated in the observation chamber of his research vessel, the Infinite Inquiry, watching the human fleet prepare for their exercise. 50,000 kilometers away, 12 human warships hung in space like sleeping giants. His sensors were recording everything, and what he saw made no sense at all. Begin detailed scans, he ordered his team of scientists. I want to know everything about those ships. Energy output, structural composition, weapon systems, life support efficiency. Everything. The Kythera representative, speaking through the ship's communication system, added their analysis. Our collective consciousness is processing all available data. Initial observations confirm our earlier findings. The human vessels register as technologically primitive. Dr. Zixith studied the readings on his displays. The human ships were using fusion reactors that were barely more advanced than what most species developed within their first century of space travel. Their hull materials were simple metal alloys with no exotic matter reinforcement. Their computer systems processed information at speeds that were laughably slow compared to galactic standards. Yet they defeated the Sarkonians, he murmured to himself. There must be something we are missing. The luminary observer pulsed with agreement. Perhaps their weapons contain hidden components that our scans cannot detect. On the display screens, the human ships began to move. What Dr. Zixith saw next would puzzle him for the rest of his very long life. The human vessels didn't move like machines. They moved like living creatures. Instead of following precise mathematical formations calculated by computers, the ships flowed through space in patterns that seemed almost organic. When one ship moved left, another would automatically adjust its position to cover the gap, without any visible communication between them. Are they using some form of telepathic link? Asked one of Dr. Zixith's assistants. Negative, came the reply from the scanning station. No unusual energy signatures detected. No quantum entanglement patterns. No psionic resonance. Dr. Zixith watched as the human fleet approached a field of asteroids that served as their target range. The ships spread out in a formation that looked random but somehow felt perfect. Each vessel took a position that maximized its firing angles while minimizing the risk from debris. How are they calculating those positions? He wondered aloud. The variables involved should require processing power beyond what their computers possess. The Kythera Collective offered their analysis. We have run 17,000 simulations of optimal positioning for this scenario. The humans have achieved something within 0.3% of perfect efficiency. This should be impossible with their technology. Then the shooting began. The human ships opened fire on the asteroids with their primitive kinetic weapons. Solid metal projectiles flew through space at tremendous speed, striking targets with precision that made Dr. Zixith's crystal form flicker with disbelief. "Magnify the targeting data," he ordered. The display zoomed in to show the details of each shot. The humans were hitting targets the size of houses from distances of over 1,000 kilometers. Their weapons had no advanced guidance systems, no quantum targeting computers, no predictive algorithms. They were firing chunks of metal in straight lines and hitting their targets every single time. "This is scientifically impossible," Dr. Zixith declared. "The variables involved in such shooting include gravitational effects from multiple celestial bodies, the rotation of the asteroids, micro-adjustments for stellar wind, and hundreds of other factors. No organic brain could calculate all of that in real time." One of his assistants looked up from her station. "Doctor, we're detecting something unusual." "What kind of unusual?" "The human ships appear to be making course corrections before obstacles appear on their sensors." Dr. Zixith focused his attention on the sensor readings. Sure enough, the human vessels were adjusting their flight paths to avoid debris, fields that wouldn't be visible to their scanners for several more seconds. "Perhaps they have more advanced sensors than we realize," suggested the luminary. "Negative," replied the scanning technician. "We can map their sensor arrays exactly. Their detection range is limited, and their resolution is poor by galactic standards." Dr. Zixus watched as a human ship suddenly veered to avoid a piece of asteroid debris that wouldn't appear on its screens for another 5 seconds. The pilot seemed to know it was coming through some sense that wasn't based on technology. "Run a simulation," he ordered. "Calculate the probability of such prescient maneuvering occurring by chance." The ship's computer worked for several minutes before providing an answer. "Probability of observed behavior occurring by random chance, less than 0.001%. The exercise continued for 2 hours, and each minute brought new impossibilities. The human crew seemed to know their ships intimately, making repairs and adjustments. That shouldn't have been possible. Dr. Zix's watched one crew fix a reactor fluctuation by hitting it with a metal tool at precisely the right moment in precisely the right place. "They're treating their ships like living beings," observed the Kithera collective. "This behavior pattern suggests an emotional bond between crew and vessel that transcends normal operational parameters." Dr. Zixith found this comment particularly disturbing. Emotional bonds were inefficient, unpredictable, and contrary to optimal performance. Yet somehow the humans were achieving superior results through methods that should have made them weaker. "Increase sensor resolution," he commanded. "I want to see inside those ships." The alien scanning arrays focused their power trying to penetrate the human vessels' hulls. What they found was even more confusing than what they'd observed on the outside. The interior of the human ships was a maze of modifications, repairs and personal touches that turned standard equipment into something unique. Coffee stains on control panels somehow improved electrical conductivity. Stress fractures in the hull plating had been welded in ways that actually strengthened the overall structure. Weapon systems had been modified so many times they bore no resemblance to their original specifications. "Look at this," Dr. Zixith said, highlighting one section of a human ship on his display. "They've bypassed 3 safety systems and rerouted power through a conduit that should have failed years ago. Yet it's operating at 110% efficiency. The modifications appear random," noted the Kithera, "yet they consistently improve performance. How is this possible?" The luminary observer studied the data. Each change seems tailored to the specific ship and crew. No 2 vessels show identical modifications. Dr. Zixith began to realize something that chilled his crystalline core. The humans weren't just operating their ships. They were partnered with them. Every crew member knew their vessel so well they could diagnose problems by sound, feel vibrations that indicated mechanical stress, and make adjustments based on intuition rather than instruments. "This is beyond science," he whispered. "They've created a bond with their machines that we cannot measure or quantify." As the exercise neared its end, Dr. Zixith made a decision that would prove to be a terrible mistake. He ordered his scanning arrays to maximum power, trying to penetrate deeper into the human vessels to understand their secrets. The response was immediate and terrifying. Every human ship in the fleet suddenly turned toward the alien observation vessels. Weapon systems that had been casually destroying asteroids now pointed directly at Dr. Zixth's research fleet. A communication came through on all frequencies. Admiral Chen's voice was calm but carried an undertone that made every alien on the observation ships feel a primitive fear they didn't understand. "Alien vessels," she said. "You were given permission to observe, not to scan. Cease your scanning activities immediately, or you will be considered hostile." Dr. Zixth quickly ordered his crew to reduce sensor power. "Our apologies, Admiral Chen. We were merely conducting standard scientific observations." "Your standard observations felt like someone trying to look through my bedroom window," Chen replied. "We don't appreciate that kind of attention." The human ships held their targeting locks for another 30 seconds before slowly turning away. Dr. Zixth found himself calculating the distance between his ships and those human weapons, and realizing that if the humans had fired, there would have been no time to escape. "How did they know?" he asked his crew. "Our scans were completely passive. There should have been no way to detect them." Nobody had an answer. As the exercise concluded and the human fleet began to disperse, Dr. Zixth reviewed the data his sensors had collected. Every piece of information only deepened the mystery. The humans had achieved impossible accuracy with primitive weapons. They had anticipated problems before their instruments detected them. They had treated their ships like trusted friends rather than tools. And somehow, through methods that defied scientific explanation, they had turned crude machines into weapons that could defeat the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. "Doctor," said one of his assistants, "what do we report to the Council?" Dr. Zixth was quiet for a long time, staring at the data that challenged everything he thought he knew about technology, warfare, and the nature of intelligence itself. "Report that we need more information," he finally said. "Much more information." But even as he spoke, Dr. Zixth felt a growing certainty that some information was not meant to be gathered. The humans had shown them something today that was beyond measurement. Beyond analysis, Admiral Sarah Chen sat in her ready room aboard the UES Defiance, reading reports that made her increasingly uncomfortable. For 2 weeks since the fleet exercise, her ships had been detecting alien scanning attempts. Not the polite, distant observation they had agreed to, but increasingly invasive probes that felt like violations of privacy. "Come in," she called when her door chimed. Commander Torres entered, carrying a data pad with the latest sensor logs. "Admiral, the alien scanning activity has increased again. They're now attempting to penetrate our hull plating with some kind of quantum resonance scanner." Chen frowned as she reviewed the data. The alien attempts were becoming more aggressive each day. What had started as simple long-range observation was evolving into something that felt dangerously close to espionage. "They're not taking the hint," she said. "Send a message to Dr. Zixth. Request another diplomatic meeting." An hour later, Chen found herself once again facing the crystal alien and his energy and cloud-based companions on her main screen. This time, however, her expression was considerably less welcoming. "Dr. Zixth," she began without preamble, "we need to talk." The crystalline scientist's glow seemed dimmer than before, and Chen suspected he hadn't been sleeping well. "If aliens like him actually slept, Admiral Chen," he replied. "I trust you are well? We have been greatly appreciating the opportunity to observe your fleet operations." "That's what I want to discuss," Chen said, her voice carrying an edge that made her bridge crew glance at each other nervously. "Our agreement was for observation from a distance. What you've been doing lately goes well beyond that." Dr. Zixth's crystal form flickered. "I am not certain I understand your concern. We have maintained the agreed distance and have not interfered with your operations." Chen activated a display, showing the scanning activity her ships had detected. "This is what we've recorded over the past 2 weeks. Quantum probes, molecular analyzers, temporal scanners, and something that tried to map our crew's brain patterns. That's not observation. That's espionage." The Cathara collective buzzed with what sounded like embarrassment. "We apologize if our scientific curiosity has caused offense. We were merely attempting to understand the remarkable efficiency of your vessels. Your remarkable efficiency is achieved through methods that defy our understanding," added the luminary representative. "We have an obligation to the galactic scientific community to investigate phenomena that challenge known physics." Chen leaned forward in her chair. "Dr. Zixth, I'm going to say this once clearly, so there's no misunderstanding. Stop scanning our ships. Stop probing our hulls. Stop trying to analyze our crew. This is your official warning. Dr. Zixth's glow brightened with what Chen was beginning to recognize as his version of agitation. Admiral, surely you understand that knowledge belongs to all civilized beings. Your ships represent a breakthrough that could benefit every species in the galaxy. Our ships represent human ingenuity and human sacrifice, Chen replied firmly. They're not public property and they're not science experiments. They're our ships, built by our people, operated by our crews, and we decide who gets to study them. The three alien representatives exchanged rapid communications in their various languages. Chen waited patiently, knowing that her words were probably causing considerable debate among the greatest minds in the galaxy. Admiral, Dr. Zixth said finally, what if we were to offer compensation for a more detailed examination? Technologies that could revolutionize human civilization? The answer is still no. But surely you must realize the scientific importance. Dr. Zixth, Chen interrupted, her voice dropping to a tone that made everyone on her bridge straighten up. The answer is no. Final answer. End of discussion. The silence that followed was so complete that Chen could hear the soft humming of her ship's ventilation system. The alien scientists seemed incapable of processing the concept that someone would refuse their generous offers of advanced knowledge. Very well, Dr. Zixth said eventually. We will respect your wishes and cease all scanning activities. Chen studied his crystal features carefully. Something in his tone suggested that this conversation was far from over. See that you do, she said, and ended the transmission. But Dr. Zixth had lied. 3 days later, Chen's sensor officers reported the deployment of new alien devices, stealth probes that were nearly invisible to human detection systems. The aliens had apparently decided that if they couldn't get permission to study human ships, they would do it secretly. Chen called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. Options? She asked without preamble. We could lodge a formal protest, suggested her diplomatic officer. We could request assistance from other species in this sector, offered her intelligence chief. Or, said Commander Torres quietly, we could send a message they won't misunderstand. Chen looked at her first officer. Explain. They think we're primitive, Admiral. They think our weapons are crude and our ships are simple. Maybe it's time to show them that primitive doesn't mean ineffective. Chen considered this. The aliens were the smartest beings in the galaxy, but they seemed incapable of learning from simple conversation. Perhaps they needed a more direct lesson. Very well, she decided. Commander Torres, prepare the fleet for a demonstration. Something that will get their attention without starting a war. The next morning, the alien observation fleet detected the approach of human ships. Dr. Zixth assumed they were coming to lodge another protest about the scanning activities. He was wrong. Admiral. Chen's face appeared on his communication screen. But this time she wasn't calling for a diplomatic chat. This was a military communication, formal and cold. Alien vessels, she said. You have deployed scanning probes in violation of our agreement. These probes are now being removed. Dr. Zixth quickly checked his sensors. The stealth probes should have been invisible to human detection systems. How could they possibly know where? His question was answered when the first probe exploded, then the second. Then the third. In the space of 30 seconds, all 12 of the supposedly undetectable stealth probes were reduced to expanding clouds of metal vapor. The human ships had destroyed them with pinpoint accuracy, at impossible ranges using weapons that should not have been able to target such small, fast-moving objects. This is impossible, Dr. Zixth whispered, staring at his displays. Those probes were using adaptive camouflage and quantum phase shifting. Nothing should have been able to detect them, let alone target them. The Kithara Collective was buzzing with alarm. The humans are using technology we cannot identify. How are they achieving such precision? Before anyone could answer, something appeared on their sensors that made every alien on the observation fleet feel a primitive terror. They didn't understand. A single projectile was heading toward them. Not at them. Toward them. It was traveling at 97% of light speed, following a trajectory that would pass precisely between the alien vessels without touching any of them. Dr. Zixth watched in fascination and horror as the projectile streaked past his fleet. The wake from its passage set off every radiation alarm on his ship. When it struck a distant asteroid 30 seconds later, the rock simply ceased to exist, converted to energy in a flash that briefly outshone the local star. The precision required for such a shot was beyond the capability of computers that existed in his reality. The projectile had passed within meters of his vessel while traveling at near light speed. The calculations needed to achieve such accuracy should have required processing power that exceeded the combined computational ability of every computer in the galaxy. But what truly terrified Dr. Zixith was what his sensors told him about how the shot had been fired. "Doctor," his sensor operator said in a voice barely above a whisper, "the projectile wasn't guided by computer systems." "What do you mean?" "I mean it was aimed manually. A human being calculated that trajectory and fired that weapon using nothing but instinct and training." Dr. Zixith felt his crystal matrix flicker as he processed this information. A biological brain using organic intuition had made calculations that the most advanced artificial intelligences couldn't replicate. It was impossible. It was unthinkable. It was terrifying. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system one more time. "Gentlemen," she said, and her tone was pleasant again, almost conversational. "I hope that demonstration clarified our position on unauthorized scanning. The next projectile won't be a warning shot." Dr. Zixth found his voice with difficulty. "Admiral, how did we do what, Doctor?" "That shot. The precision. The targeting. It should not have been possible," Chen smiled. And something in that expression made Dr. Zixith wish he had never heard of the species called humanity. "Doctor, you keep trying to understand us using science and logic and computer calculations, but you're missing the most important thing about humans." "What is that?" "We don't care what should be possible," Chen said. "We only care about what needs to be done." The transmission ended, leaving the alien observation fleet alone, with the slowly expanding cloud of vaporized asteroid and the growing realization that they had seriously underestimated the species they were trying to study. Dr. Zixith stared at his sensors, watching the energy readings from where the asteroid. Dr. Zixith had not slept in 4 days. Not that sleep came easily to crystalline beings anyway, but the events of the past week had left him in a state of agitation that made rest impossible. The human demonstration had shaken him more deeply than he cared to admit, but his scientific curiosity burned stronger than his fear. He floated in his laboratory aboard the Infinite Inquiry. Surrounded by holographic displays showing every piece of data his sensors had collected about human vessels, the information was extensive, detailed, and utterly useless. Every measurement, every scan, every analysis pointed to the same impossible conclusion. The humans were achieving extraordinary results with ordinary technology. There must be something we are missing, he muttered to himself for the 1,000th time. Something hidden. Something our scans cannot detect. The Kithera collective had been unusually quiet since the demonstration. Their shared consciousness was struggling to process information that challenged their fundamental understanding of reality. The luminary representative had withdrawn to their energy form's equivalent of meditation, trying to find patterns in chaos. Dr. Zixth made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his very long life. "Prepare the quantum phase scanner," he ordered his assistants. "Maximum resolution, minimum exposure time." "Doctor," one of his colleagues warned, "the humans have been very clear about their position on unauthorized scanning." "We will be extremely careful," Dr. Zixth replied. One brief scan, just enough to penetrate their hull shielding. 0.3 of a second, no more. They will never detect it. It was the greatest mistake of his scientific career. The quantum phase scanner was the most advanced technology in the galactic arsenal, capable of analyzing matter down to the subatomic level. Dr. Zixth had used it to unlock the secrets of a dozen civilizations, always with their permission, always for the greater good of scientific knowledge. He targeted the scanner at the human flagship, the UES Defiance, and activated it for exactly 0.3 seconds. In those 0.3 of a second, Dr. Zixth saw something that changed his understanding of war, technology, and the nature of consciousness itself. What he discovered in the bowels of the human ship was not advanced technology or hidden weapons. He discovered the human soul. The interior of the Defiance was unlike anything in his databases. Every surface had been modified, personalized, and adapted by the crew members who lived there. What should have been sterile corridors and functional workspaces had been transformed into something that was part machine, part home and part shrine to human stubbornness. In the engine room, coffee stains on a control panel had somehow created a more efficient power distribution network. The stains followed the path of quantum fluctuations in a way that no computer could have calculated. Yet some engineer had spilled coffee in exactly the right pattern to improve performance. Stress fractures in the hull plating told the story of battles fought and won. Each crack had been welded not just to repair damage, but to strengthen the overall structure. The repairs formed patterns that distributed force more effectively than the original design, turning wounds into armor. But most disturbing of all were the weapon systems. The human kinetic cannons had been modified so extensively that they bore no resemblance to their original specifications. Every gun was unique, adapted to the preferences and instincts of the crew member who operated it. Targeting systems had been bypassed in favor of manual controls. Computer assistance had been disabled in favor of human intuition. The humans had deliberately made their weapons less precise by mathematical standards, but somehow more accurate in practice. Dr. Zixith realized he was seeing something that had never existed before in the galaxy. A perfect fusion of organic consciousness and mechanical function. The human ships weren't just operated by their crews, they were extensions of them. Every crew member knew their vessel intimately. They could diagnose problems by the sound of the engines, feel stress in the hull through vibrations in the deck plates, and sense the ship's needs through an intuition that bordered on telepathy. The vessels responded to their crews not because of advanced artificial intelligence, but because they had been shaped by human hands, human minds, and human hearts. It was, Dr. Zixith realized with growing horror, utterly impossible to replicate. You could copy the modifications, but you couldn't copy the centuries of human history that had created the mentality behind them. You could analyze the repairs, but you couldn't replicate the desperate determination that had guided the hands making them. You could scan the weapons, but you couldn't duplicate the warrior spirit that made them so devastatingly effective. The humans had weaponized something that couldn't be measured, quantified, or reproduced, the simple refusal to accept defeat. Dr. Zixith's moment of revelation was interrupted by alarms screaming throughout his ship. The humans had detected his scan. On the main display, Admiral Chen's face appeared. Her expression was no longer diplomatic. It wasn't even angry. It was something far worse. It was disappointed. "Dr. Zixith," she said quietly, "you gave me your word." The crystalline scientist felt something he had never experienced before. Shame. "Admiral, I can explain." "No," Chen interrupted. "You can't. You made a promise and you broke it. That tells me everything I need to know about you. Please, Admiral, you must understand. The scientific implications." "I understand perfectly," Chen said. "You think your curiosity is more important than your word. You think your desire for knowledge justifies breaking agreements. You think being smart gives you the right to do whatever you want." Dr. Zixith tried to respond, but Chen wasn't finished. "Let me tell you what you discovered in that scan, Doctor. You found out that our ships work because we make them work. You found out that our weapons hit their targets because we refuse to let them miss. You found out that our crews are effective because they care about each other and their mission more than they care about themselves." Dr. Zixith's crystal form flickered as he realized she was right. His scan had revealed the human secret, and it was something that couldn't be stolen, copied, or improved upon. "You want to know why we won't let you study our ships?" Chen continued. "It's not because we're afraid you'll steal our technology. It's because we know you couldn't use it even if you had it." "I don't understand," Dr. Zixith whispered. "Our ships don't work because they're advanced," Chen explained. "They work because every rivet, every wire, every component has been touched by human hands and shaped by human will. They work because our crews love them, fight for them, and refuse to let them fail." The silence that followed was broken only by the soft humming of the ship's systems. Dr. Zixith found himself staring at readings that showed him the most advanced technology in the galaxy, yet told him nothing about how it actually functioned. "You could build exact copies of our ships," Chen said. "You could duplicate every modification, every repair, every improvement. But they wouldn't work for you the way they work for us, because you can't duplicate the human spirit." Dr. Zixith felt his worldview crumbling around him. For his entire life, he had believed that superior technology would always triumph over inferior technology. The idea that something as intangible as fighting spirit could overcome scientific advantage was beyond his comprehension. "Admiral," he said finally, "what should I report to the Galactic Council?" Chen considered this for a moment. "Tell them the truth, Doctor. Tell them that human warships are effective not because of what they are, but because of who operates them. Tell them that some advantages can't be studied, stolen, or replicated. And if they don't believe me? Chen's smile was not pleasant.
Then they're welcome to test that theory personally.
But I suggest they think very carefully before they do. Dr. Zixth found himself nodding slowly. The demonstration with the asteroid had shown him that humans could make impossible shots with primitive weapons. But what he had seen in his scan was far more terrifying. They could do impossible things because they refused to accept that anything was impossible. "One final question, Admiral," he said.
"Why are you telling me this?"
"Why not keep it secret?" Chen's expression softened slightly. "Because, Doctor, you've just learned the most important lesson any scientist can learn. Some mysteries are more dangerous to solve than to leave alone." The transmission ended, leaving Dr. Zixith alone with his thoughts and his data. Around him, the most advanced scientific equipment in the galaxy hummed quietly, having revealed a secret that rendered all of it irrelevant. He began composing his report to the Galactic Council, choosing his words carefully. "Esteemed colleagues, after extensive observation and analysis, I must conclude that human warships should not be examined further. Their effectiveness stems not from superior technology, but from factors that cannot be measured or replicated. The humans have weaponized qualities that exist outside the realm of science: determination, loyalty, and the refusal to accept defeat. These vessels are not machines to be studied. They are extensions of a species that treats impossible as merely a suggestion. They work not because they are advanced, but because they are human. I recommend that all scanning and examination attempts cease immediately. Some knowledge is too dangerous to pursue, not because it might harm us,